You're stuck in your head, and that's your first problem. That mental loop you keep replaying, that constant analysis, that obsession with every outcome, every possibility, every fear, is the enemy of progress. You think you're being smart, strategic, cautious, but you're not. You're just scared. You're a man at war with himself, paralyzed by imaginary scenarios that don't even exist. You call it preparation, but deep down, you know the truth. You're hiding behind thoughts because you're too weak to act. Look around you. Do you honestly think the world stops to wait for the man who overthinks? No. The world moves for the man who moves, the guy who gets up and does what needs to be done, the guy who doesn't care if it's perfect, if it's polished, if the stars are aligned. He decides and he acts, and that man, even if he fails, learns 10 times more than the one who sat still, pondering life, rehearsing scenarios, and doing nothing. This overthinking itself, sabotage dressed in intelligence. It's ego. You think you're too smart to make a mistake, so you keep planning, adjusting, considering, reflecting, but reflection without execution is wasted thought. Action is the only language life understands. And while you sit in your room, scrolling on your phone, questioning your next move, someone else is out there making money, building muscle, gaining experience, earning respect, and creating power. He's winning because he doesn't allow his thoughts to own him. You think you need clarity to move? You don't. You think you need certainty? You don't. Winners don't wait for green lights. They move in chaos. They move while it's messy. You don't need 100% certainty to act. That's a lie weak people tell themselves to justify inaction. Real players make decisions at 40% certainty and adapt as they go. The mindset is, I'll figure it out while I'm moving. And they do, because motion itself creates clarity. But you sit and you stall. You weigh your options until they weigh you down. You confuse motion with progress. You write to-do lists, rearrange your schedule, daydream about the future, watch motivational videos, but you don't act. So you stay stuck. The problem isn't your environment, it's your addiction to thinking without doing. You think too much because you act too little. Overthinking isn't just a bad habit, it's mental weakness. It's fear parading as logic. You're not preparing, you're procrastinating, you're trying to avoid discomfort because action is uncomfortable, risk is uncomfortable, exposure is uncomfortable, but that discomfort. That's where strength is born. That's where transformation lives. That's where the man you want to be is forged. You want to stop overthinking. Here's the brutal truth. You need to stop being soft. You need to kill the part of your mind that tells you, wait, think more, plan better. That part of your mind isn't your friend, it's your enemy. It's the voice of failure. That voice grows louder the longer you listen, and every time you obey it, you weaken yourself. The only cure for overthinking is action. Relentless, aggressive, unapologetic action. You want to become confident, do things that scare you. You want to build trust in yourself, start following through. Your brain will always doubt you until you show it evidence that you're the kind of man who moves, who executes, who adapts and overcomes. Thinking never made anyone confident. Action does. Let's call it what it is, cowardice. You're afraid, you want the guarantee. You want the path to be perfect before you walk it. That's fantasy. It doesn't exist. Every successful man you admire, he didn't have a perfect plan. He had courage. He had a reason to move, and he moved. He faced fear, he failed, he adapted, and he kept going. That's the formula. That's how you win. But that takes guts, that takes discipline. And discipline is the weapon you lack. You wake up and let your emotions run your day. You don't feel like it. And think that's a valid reason to delay, but here's the truth. Your feelings don't matter, only your actions do. The man who wins is the man who does what's necessary, not what's comfortable. Overthinking is comfortable, action is not. You need structure, you need a routine, you need to get up early, push your body, push your limits, train your discipline like a muscle. The more disciplined you become, the quieter that voice of hesitation gets. You drown overthinking with movement, you kill doubt with decisions, you silence fear with execution. When you bring order to your day, overthinking doesn't have space to grow. You wake up, you train, you execute, you build. That's the rhythm of power. That's the rhythm of progress. Idle time is a breeding ground for weak thoughts, and weak thoughts lead to a weak life. Let's talk about decisions. You fear making the wrong one. So you wait, hoping a sign will drop from the sky. It won't. The truth is, most decisions aren't life or death. Make one. If it's wrong, adjust. The faster you move, the more feedback you get. and feedback is how you learn. Thinking doesn't teach you, life does, experience does. You've made a god out of perfection. You want everything to be flawless. You want your brand to be perfect before you launch it. You want the body to be ideal before you go to the gym. You want the girl to say yes before you approach, but nothing real comes from that mindset. Perfection is the excuse of the man who's afraid to fail. You don't need perfect. You need done. You need real. You need now, and here's another truth. You're not overwhelmed. You're underprioritized. You don't lack clarity. You lack focus. You have too much information and too little execution. You're reading books, watching content, listening to advice, but you're not implementing. Pick one path and go all in. Cut off distraction. Cut off plan B. Make the decision and make it right by your effort. People think they need more time. You don't need more time. You need more courage. You need to stop hiding behind thoughts and start putting your face in the fire. Every time you act, your mind starts to obey you. Every time you delay, you strengthen your inner coward. That's the war you're in. It's not against the world. It's against yourself. The weak version of you vs the disciplined version, and only one wins. When you stop overthinking, you gain speed, and speed wins. The man who makes 100 decisions and gets 30 right is ahead of the man who made only 5 decisions waiting for perfection. You want growth. You want wealth. You want freedom. Then move fast, fail fast, learn fast. That's how winners think. That's how they live. Understand this. The moment you delay, you create doubt. The moment you act, you create momentum. Overthinking stops when momentum starts. That's the rule. Get in motion. Do something, anything. Write the email, record the video, make the call, go to the gym, send the proposal, launch the idea, stop waiting, start building. You think successful people are fearless? They're not. They've just mastered the art of acting in spite of fear. They don't wait to feel ready. They act and adapt. And the more they do, the quieter their fears become. Action is the antidote to fear. It's the cure for overthinking. You don't fight thoughts with thoughts. You fight them with movement. So when your brain starts spiraling, when the thoughts race, when the doubts creep in, don't sit. Don't analyze. Move, walk, work, build, lift, speak, create. That's the discipline. That's how you take back control. That's how you become the man you were meant to be. Not a thinker, not a dreamer, but a doer, a force. A machine of purpose. You've been sold a lie. That thinking more makes you smarter. That caution keeps you safe. But the truth is, the more you think without acting, the smaller you become. Your confidence dies. Your dreams die, your fire dies, and you wake up one day broken, bitter, and confused, wondering why life passed you by. It didn't pass you by, you let it, but it's not too late. You can take back the wheel. You can choose to move, you can choose to break the loop. Overthinking is just a habit, and habits can be broken, but only through action, not talk, not theory, real movement, real decisions, relentless execution. That's how you stop overthinking. You destroy it with action. You drown it with discipline. You bury it under the weight of your own momentum. You stop feeding it. You stop entertaining it. And you start building something real. Your life, your legacy, your power. Now that you've broken the chains of inaction, don't think the battle is over. Because once you kill the habit of overthinking, another challenge rises. Maintaining the killer instinct that silence created. See, momentum is fragile. Discipline is a daily war. The second you slip, the second you get comfortable, the old voice comes back. That little whisper saying, take it easy, you've done enough, you can rest. And that's when you lose everything you've built. You need to understand something very clearly. Overthinking doesn't vanish. It waits. It hides in the shadows, ready to sneak back in the moment you let your guard down. It's a parasite, and parasites don't die easily. They adapt. So the moment you start making moves, it'll come back in a new form. Doubt, anxiety, perfectionism. You'll start questioning your pace, your results, your timing. That's the trap. And if you fall for it, you're back at square one. What separates the top 1% from everyone else isn't talent. It's the ability to stay in motion when things aren't perfect, when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's unclear, when it feels like it's not working. They don't stop to question every step. They don't keep checking the map every 5 minutes. They commit to the path and they trust their ability to adjust along the way. That's what makes them unstoppable. And you've been stopping every 5 feet, second, guessing your every move like you're walking on eggshells. You've turned your brain into your prison. You think your way out of action. You strategize your way into stagnation. Let me tell you something that will offend you. You don't need more strategies. You need more grit, more aggression, more execution. You need to move like your life depends on it. Because it does. You were not born to sit around contemplating your potential. You were born to act on it. You were not born to live in fear of failure. You were born to dominate through it. But that won't happen if every time things get hard, you pause to evaluate. At some point, you have to decide that your mission is bigger than your fear. That the outcome matters more than your emotions. That the war must be fought whether you feel ready or not. Every time you hesitate, you reinforce the lie that you can't trust yourself. And that's the real cost of overthinking. It erodes your self-belief. You hesitate long enough and you start believing you're not capable. You start looking to others for answers. You start waiting for permission. And the world will eat you alive if you wait for permission. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Nobody's handing you clarity. You either take the wheel of your life or you sit in the backseat forever. You've got a brain, great. So do 7 billion other people. The difference is what you do with it. The guy who acts on imperfect plans is 10 times more dangerous than the guy who dreams about perfect ones. Let me be blunt. Your ideas mean nothing if you don't execute. Your potential is irrelevant if you don't harness it. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if it lives in your head, it's useless. You want to be a weapon, then sharpen your ability to execute. Sharpen your focus. Sharpen your mindset. Cut away the distractions. Cut away the endless research. Cut away the obsession with being right. Right is earned through trial and error, not theorizing. You want clarity, go earn it. Get in the arena, swing, miss, adjust. Repeat, that's the path. That's the only path. And when you start moving like that, fast, focused fear, something powerful happens. You begin to build self-trust. Not because you always win, but because you always move. Because you always respond. Because you always fight back. That's the foundation of confidence. That's how real self-esteem is built. Not from affirmations, not from therapy, not from journaling, from action. From proving to yourself over and over again that you do what you say you'll do. People ask, how do I get confidence? Easy. Stack undeniable evidence. Do hard things. Do what you said you would do every day, even when it sucks. Especially when it sucks, because that's when most people fold. That's when the average man hides. You want to separate yourself, execute in discomfort, dominate in confusion, move through the fog with violence. Be the man who doesn't need all the answers, he just needs a mission. And if you don't have a mission, you're already finished, because a man without a mission will drown in thoughts. A man without a mission will look for reasons to pause instead of reasons to push. So if you've been overthinking, ask yourself, what am I even aiming at? What am I building? What's the purpose behind all of this? Because if the answer is nothing, no wonder your mind is spinning. You've got no direction. You've got no target. You're walking in circles wondering why you're dizzy. Your mind needs direction like your body needs oxygen. You take that away and the system collapses. So you better give yourself a target so big, so bold, so impossible looking that it demands your full focus. Something that's worth your obsession. Something that silences all the noise. Because when a man is locked in, his brain doesn't have time to entertain weakness. When he's building something real, he doesn't have room for hesitation. The goal drowns the fear, but that only works if you commit fully. Half measures won't silence your mind. Dabbling won't kill doubt. You can't kind of pursue greatness. It's all in or stay broke. All in or stay average. All in or stay soft. Overthinking is a symptom of divided focus. It's what happens when you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Decide, burn the bridge, give yourself no way back. You think you need motivation. You don't. You need pressure. You need deadlines. You need stakes. You need consequences. The reason you overthink is because there's no cost to not acting. You can delay and nothing changes. You can think all day and no one holds you accountable. That's the curse of a comfortable life that makes you soft. If you had real stakes, you'd move. If your survival depended on action, you wouldn't hesitate. You'd act first, think later, so create the stakes. Put your name on something. Make a public commitment. Risk embarrassment. Risk failure. Because that's when the real you shows up. Not the version that hides behind mental gymnastics. Not the version that plays it safe. The version that's too focused on winning to care about fear. That's who you need to be. The man who's too busy building to be thinking. The man who's so mission-driven that he doesn't even notice the fear anymore. Because fear is irrelevant to him, doubt is noise, confusion is a luxury he can't afford. He doesn't need clarity to act. He creates clarity by acting, and look, there will be setbacks, you'll screw up. You'll hit walls, you'll lose money, people will laugh, you'll feel stupid. But so what? That's part of the process. You'll survive, you'll adapt, you'll get stronger. Failure isn't the enemy, inaction is. You can recover from a mistake. You can't recover from a life of hesitation. So train yourself to act. Wake up early and move. Set aggressive goals and chase them. When your brain says pause, you push. When you feel fear, you lean in. When doubt creeps in, you flood it with action. That's how you stay in control. That's how you build mental muscle. And that's how you make overthinking a thing of the past. Not because it disappeared, but because you outworked it. You outpaced it. You out-executed it. You made so many moves that your brain couldn't keep up with its own noise. You didn't give it time to spiral. You gave it work, and work is the cure. Work builds belief. Work silences weakness. Work puts you in the driver's seat of your life. That's how you break the chains for good, because you were never meant to be trapped in your thoughts. You were meant to move mountains. You were meant to dominate your space, but you can't do that if you keep waiting to feel ready. You'll never feel ready. The most powerful moves you'll ever make in life will be made in fear, in chaos. In confusion, that's where legends are made, in the moments when average men freeze. And you don't. That's how you win. So here's the truth. Overthinking was never your enemy. It was just the excuse you clung to. The real enemy was your refusal to move, your addiction to comfort, your obsession with perfection. You want to be free, then act, not when it feels right, not when the stars align. Act now, act hard. Act often. Stop trying to predict every outcome and start creating them. The clock is ticking whether you move or not. So stop letting your mind talk you out of your own greatness. You already know what needs to be done. Now go do it ruthlessly, relentlessly, without apology, because in the end, no one's going to save you from your own hesitation. Except you.